First of all, good afternoon, everybody. This is the Call 2025 information webinar. My name is Florence Quist, and I will just moderate this webinar for you. So just as a general introduction, just to let you know that if you want to ask a question, you have a Q&A questions and answer Q&A button that is available for you via the Zoom options. So please ask your questions through there, and we will, of course, answer them as best we can during the webinar. We'll start with a general presentation of the network given by Roland Brandenburg, and then a presentation of the work program by Jorge and Roberto Pacios. A presentation of the RRI guidelines given by Cecilia Ann Matheson, a presentation of the guide for proposers and the general procedures given by Roland for the participating countries and eligibility. Schedule and workflow will be presented by Larissa Chapperman, and the call documents by Charlene Lee Miller. And then we'll have some small questions and answer session. I see already one question. The recording will be made available after the presentation, after the webinar, and also all the presentations given will also be made available on the website. But without further ado, I will give the floor to Roland in order for him to present the network.
Okay, thank you very much, Florence, for introducing me, and welcome everybody to our Call 2025 webinar. I assume that some of you have been around already in past webinars. Nevertheless, I will start this by giving you an introduction into our network with its history of launching calls. So the mRNA3 is, of course, an EU-funded project. It's an ERNet co-fund on advanced materials and battery technologies to support the Green Deal. And it's, as such, a successor of previous phases, the mRNA2, which was around from 2016 to 2022, and the mRNA1, which started in 2012. It has been the largest of all ERNet co-fund networks since ERNet co-funds exist, and for the current phase 21 to 26 we have a consortium consisting of 49 funding organizations, which means agencies, council and ministries from 35 countries, of which 25 would be EU member states, including 11 regions. There's additional associated countries and also non-European countries, as you can see from the map. And in the pie chart here, you see the type of organizations. The majority of our programs are national funding programs, and about 1/4 is a regional funding program. And here's some further breakdown into original funding organizations. In particular, we are very proud to have a very large part of the European Union, including the new member states, the EU13, as we call them here. In terms of participating programs and funding organizations, as you know, this core is built on national and regional funding programs and national regional funding committed to this core, which means we have to keep in mind the characteristics of the participating programs. First of all, we have programs with a specific thematic scope. About 1/3 of our consortium runs these programs, and then about 2/3 of our funding programs do not have any specific thematic scope or any restrictions. In terms of eligible TRLs, there's a wide range of TRLs that are eligible, while not all of them are eligible in all countries or for all funding organizations. But you clearly see that there's a peak around TRL 4, and a lot of participating funding programs can support anything between TRL 2 and 5 or 6. So that's where the majority of our funding programs operate. In terms of timing, the EMERNet 3 is, as I said, a new project that runs for 5 years, 2021 to 2026. And during these 5 years, we have 5 cores that we launch, and the core 2025 will be the last one under the current grant agreement. And in addition to the joint cores, we also have additional joint activities for the RTD community and together with the RTD community. The objectives for the current phase are described in our vision and policy paper, which you can download from our website. Obviously, we want to strengthen the European RTD community in materials research and innovation. We want to upgrade the technological capabilities of industrial sectors, and we want to make substantial contribution to EU policy priorities, which requires alignment of priorities at all levels, regional level, national level, and European level, in order to identify gaps and needs and to create synergies. We want to avoid overlaps and obviously reduce the fragmentation of efforts and funding. We involve the RTD community actively to support us in designing our work programs. Relevant stakeholders are invited to contribute to our activities. We're asking for external advice to identify emerging trends or gaps that we would try to fill. For the cores, we aim to mobilize significant amounts of public funding. Altogether, for the 5 cores, when we look back next year, we hope to be able to say that we've mobilized more than 230 million euro for all these cores, which is a substantial amount of money. And of course, we'll analyze what were the results of investing that amount into projects. We want to have assessment of activities of impact on industry and academia. And we hope to create a long-term benefit with our activities. And among the objectives is, of course, a preparation of any future development of the network. In terms of thematic objectives, we highlight research on advanced materials, targeting the SDGs and the green and digital transition. And in particular, I've listed 4 SDGs here that you will also find mentioned in the guide for proposals. It's SDG 6, 7, 9, and 12, basically dealing with developing materials, for example, for water treatment, for battery technologies, for whatever environmentally friendly application, and basically to upgrade the technological capabilities of industrial sectors. Our network is guided by European communications and roadmaps such as the Green Deal, the Circular Economy Action Plan, and others. These are important documents, important guidelines for our own activities to make sure we offer something which is up to date and covering challenges identified. We also have a focus on responsible research and innovation, which you will also find in the work program. Involving the relevant stakeholders is done in a cycle that we run through every year. And I guess you will see this again when talking about the topics later. We have a participation of the RTD community when we consult them on future topics. You may be aware of the public consultation that we are running in the summer month to identify anything that could be addressed in a future core. This is continued with consulting at our network level, the stakeholders. And then finally, we have workshops with experts to draft the work programs, which are then prepared for implementation. And then the core completes the cycle. And 1 year later, we are here again. On this way, we involve relevant networks. I've put some logos here, and all of them help us with our activities. Looking at the thematic scope of our course, you see that we have been launching 6 topics for the past couple of years, and you see both continuity and also flexibility. There's some topics that appear more or less every year, whereas there have been changes in recent years to adapt our scope to upcoming needs. We have, for example, a separate topic for energy applications that has been launched for the first time in 2022. Last year, we've launched for the first time a topic on materials addressing environmental challenges, whereas others have been around for quite some time because they're still relevant. So we are able to adapt our scope to emerging trends. Apart from the headlines that you find for all these topics, there's also topics or priorities implicitly covered or also covered, but not visible in the main titles, basically. I've already mentioned the sustainability and ROI, which is a mandatory part in the proposal template, and you find this in every single topic in our work program, and there's also separate guidelines which will be explained later on. Substitution of raw materials, contributions to batteries, two-dimensional materials, lightweight materials, all of them are mentioned or addressed in several or even all topics in our core 2025. This also includes modeling, and there's also regulatory research which is addressed in this core. Not all of them have been launched for the first time, so some of them have been addressed already for the past couple of years, but I've highlighted this in particular for the core 2025. So basically, we're trying to adjust our core scope to trends and needs based on interaction with experts from the RTD community, and we're very thankful for that. Looking at some statistics, I would like to point out that we see a strong increase in interest in our cores. The MRN3 cores 21 to 24 alone have attracted more than 1,500 proposals, which is already more than the 2 phases combined. So the MRN3 is a very large network launching very large cores, and we've already funded 190 projects with a total funding of around 189 million euro, which means we're well in line with our overall target to spend or mobilize 230 million euro by next year. And if we assume that the core 25 will be in the same range as before, we'll probably land somewhere around 2,000 pre-proposals received altogether. To have some more information on proposal statistics, the average consortium that we've seen has just over 4.5 partners, and project costs in a range of 1 to 1.5 million euro, averaged across all projects, of course. And the success rate for the full proposal phase is in the range of 30 to 40%. Despite the increasing interest, we still manage to have a significant success rate for the full proposals. We're also very strong in the performance of widening countries or EU13 countries. As one of the few networks, we have a very strong participation of research groups from these countries. About 3/4 of all projects see at least one group involved from the countries mentioned here, and all of them participate in our course and manage to fund projects. So that's something which is really special for this network, that these research communities are very well integrated into our course. which makes the MRN3 a very inclusive network. In terms of participation of organization types, obviously there's a lot of research organizations and universities involved, but there's also significant participation of industry involving SMEs, but also large industry. This depends, of course, on the participating funding programs and the eligibility of organization types in these programs. Success rate for industry participation is actually above average because obviously there's more research organizations involved than industry. How do we promote the success of our network? I would like to point out the Materialpedia online database, which includes more than 300 projects funded from all cohorts that we launched so far. You can search the database by year, by topic, by keyword. You find all the abstracts and involved research groups. We also monitor the projects that we fund and we assess their impact in terms of benefits for academia and industry, environmental impact, technological impact, and so on. We publish success stories. We promote success stories through social media. And last but not least, we're also present at events. And I would like to highlight in particular the large conference that we will have next week in Dresden, Germany, in which we promote the 70 projects that we funded in the cohort 2021, because all of them have already ended or are close to coming to an end. So this is a very good time to promote the success of these projects. You're welcome to join us, of course, even if it's already on a very short notice. To conclude, what's going to happen next? Even though this call will be the last one in the context of MRED3, we are planning to have a next phase, again, as an EU-funded project. So we are currently preparing our next phase, which should run from 26 to 29 approximately. So we are aiming to have another 3 cohorts, continuing with the cohort 2026, which should be prepared this year and launched next year and about a year from now. And we want to continue as an integral part of the European advanced materials ecosystem and continue, of course, to support EU policies and to tackle challenges together by pooling resources at regional and national level, which wouldn't be available for transnational research otherwise. So we want to remain being a key player in advanced materials and looking forward to receiving your interesting proposals. Please check out our Materialpedia website. Please join our newsletter or follow us on LinkedIn. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Roland, for this very clear presentation of our network. I don't see any question strictly related to the network. I think people want to get into the meat of the call. So maybe I will give the floor to Jorge and Roberto.
Perfect. Thank you, Florence, and thank you, Roland, for the introduction and context. I'm going to dive a bit more in detail into the topics and objectives of this specific call, and together with colleague Roberto Pacios, who will describe in detail all the updates and new aspects expected in each of the 6 thematic scope topics. So first thing first, and you'll find this next picture familiar. We followed, as for every year, the joint program methodology, in which We started as early as February, May with the public consultation, which we actually, and I take the opportunity, will be opening as well for the next call, for the call 2026. So we welcome suggestions in the next few weeks. But anyway, last year we opened this. We received suggestions both from the community as well as from many of these associations, which have contributed to the definition of this year's thematic scope. We also did a consultation with the funding agencies. Of course, the proposed topics that we receive have to align also with the research funders' priorities. And this basically prepared the way to our strategic expert workshop group that took place in November, with participation, of course, of experts across all the different geographical regions participating in the call, but also representatives from different associations. And thanks to them, we had the first draft of the work program, which was then refined together with all the other documents at the end of last year, beginning of this one, and ready to set us where we are right now, which is launching and implementing this call 2025. So I did want to just quickly stop and as I say and summarize that most of this work was carried out in this SEC workshop that took place in November in Malaga, and thank Malaga University for hosting us, and of course all the experts that participated. As you'll see in a second, it was a very eventful meeting. But we certainly managed to get quite a few updates to the work program, integrating further some of the objectives that we set out in the vision and policy document that we published a couple of years ago, refining further the horizontal objectives, and of course the thematic priorities, as you'll see in a second. This is exactly the structure of you'll find in the guide for proposals. It's held under Annex 1, in which you will have the horizontal objectives, those objectives that we expect all proposals to consider and address if possible, and then of course the specific thematic priorities, the topics which will specifically align with the proposed themes and fields of your proposals. Each topic is then described into several sections. First, a technical content or scope and the specific objectives and transversal aspects of that topic. Then there is the expected impact and the sustainability and RI requirements. And finally, the target groups keywords, which are dedicated topic keywords, and of course the expected TRL range. This is at the end indications which align very closely with the evaluation criteria. So please do read your specific topic in detail. Make sure you try to address as much as possible. With regards to the horizontal objectives, I did want to stop a couple of seconds here, just mentioning that we have tried to optimize a bit further this year and align with recent developments, and I specifically introduced a new digitalization and data management horizontal objectives, which basically tries to take into account the latest developments and incentivize and in a more clear fashion a good practice in data handling. So please do review these changes. And before I give way to Roberto, as I say, I'd like to thank again the experts of participated and all the members of Emeranet in the Malaga workshop, which unfortunately took place through the floods that we suffered in Malaga. So we had some moments of tension there, but hopefully, fortunately, everyone got home safely and went through the process just as well. So I'll leave the floor to Roberto. I don't know if you're able to take over. Yeah, perfect. I think you should be able to now move the slides. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Jorge. Yes, from now on, we are going to see the description of the topics. and also just the most significant changes in comparison to some previous calls. The truth here is that it's true that the topics are essentially the same as those in previous years, but there have been quite a lot of changes in the text. So it's probably worth having a detailed look at the work program and see how the text has been adapting. We try to do it more concise and more specific to refer in a clearer way which are the scope, the objectives, and the applications. So here is initially the list of the 6 topics. So as I said 1 minute ago, yes, it's essentially the same, but some minor changes. And here, probably in the list, the most remarkable change is the incorporation of lightweight materials in topic 3, along with advanced composite. If you remember from last call, it was only due or only related to advanced composite, and now it's advanced composite and making or putting stress or highlighting the lightweight properties of these materials. It takes a while to react. It changes slides. Whoops. Well, here we have as I said, the most significant changes following from the previous slide. Even there are some changes in the text, but just as a concept, the inclusion of also sustainable magnetic materials. They have now coverage in topic 1 related to energy and topic 6 related to electronics. Also, bio-inspired structural materials have received a greater coverage or more extended coverage in topics 2, 3, and 4. As I said, lightweight materials have now coverage in topic 3. Also, there is a minor change in the reduction, but probably a major change in the scope is the elimination in topic 3. If you remember from other calls, there was a sentence making mention that at least two functionalities have to be covered, and this has been removed, and now proposals can target on only one functionality or only one property of this kind of materials. Then there has been also some TRL adjustments depending on the call, and also keywords on the topic, and also keywords have been modified in order to make it easier for applicants to identify the topic in which your proposal should go on. And then last but not least, this hasn't been changed from other calls, but it's the importance of research and responsible research and innovation with a common text or a common description for all the topics. But you shouldn't forget that all the proposals should have a preliminary assessment covering resources, production processes, use phase, set of life, and societal stakeholders. Looking at environmentally friendly materials, green technology, the use of critical raw materials, the energy consumptions. In some of the topics, as we will see in a minute, there are more stress than in others, but in all the topics, these aspects should be somehow covered. If we go now to topic 1, sustainable materials for energy applications. The main scope of this topic is the development of advanced materials that can play a key role in new and cleaner energy storage conversion, efficiency, and utilization of energy. And as I said, in spite of the common text for all the topics, especially the stress is put here on circularity, end-of-life treatment, recyclability, techno-economical assessment, and also materials for sustainable, safe by design. And here I have tried to compile the properties and applications, but it's not always easy to distinguish between them. There are some objective and transversal aspects that are highlighted here, like not only the proposal can not only be focused on the development of materials, but it can also incorporate multi-scale modeling, artificial intelligence, and then applications as from other years in H2 production, fuel cell and electrolyzers, lithium batteries, beyond lithium-ion batteries, new photovoltaics materials, magnets in energy application. As I said at the beginning, this is a recent incorporation where magnets can have coverage now, and then also new materials concept for efficient energy harvesting, including thermoelectric, triboelectric, piezoelectric, and some other hybrid technologies. And as I said also before, substitution of critical raw materials and or hazardous materials is also a key aspect within this call. Regarding topic 2, innovative surface coatings and interfaces, this call stimulate application-driven development of innovative surfaces, and also aspects that are especially addressed here is to minimize or substitute harmful materials regarding with health and environment, and also the use of critical raw materials. Also circular economy aspects regarding to energy efficiency, reduction of the energy intake to produce these materials, these coatings, and also green production processes and solvents. Here, as I said at the beginning, bio-inspired materials receive a special coverage and in terms of different applications like long-time stable antimicrobial coatings, thin films and coatings for sensing applications. Also, as I mentioned in the last point, including biosensing, of course, multi-scale modeling as well, engineered functional materials. And here is also remarkable also complementary characterization techniques, including new approaches, methods, and also artificial intelligence and machine learning can be placed under this topic in order to accelerate the development of or the discovery of surfaces, coating, and interfaces. Regarding advanced composite and lightweight materials, here we have a definition of what an advanced composite should be. And then in parallel, as I said at the beginning, the incorporation of lightweight materials is one of the most remarkable changes that has taken place this year. Some other aspects that are addressed here within this topic is cost and scalability to produce these advanced composite materials, the elimination of or to minimize the subsets of concern, aspects related to recyclability, the use of critical raw materials, bio-based renewable constituents, and also the use of advanced computational methods to the design and to the synthesis of these advanced composites. The properties that should be targeted is strength or stiffness to weight ratio, the durability, talking about mechanical behavior of the materials, like grip, fatigue, impact, fracture, the thermal management of properties, self-healing or somehow repairable behavior, self-monitoring capabilities that the composite should be able to know by itself in which state it is, and also applications regarding to biocompatible or antimicrobial materials or biological functional. Fire retardant properties for some applications like batteries, for example, and also very important, we shouldn't forget processability and manufacturability of these composites should also receive special attention within the proposal. Let's go now to the fourth topic. Functional materials. This is basically essentially the same as in the previous call. Here we can work on incorporate advancements in material design, in the production integration, also can be supported by modeling. It can also be dealt with high throughput screening and advanced manufacturing of these materials. And also aspects that shouldn't be forgotten are the replace of hazardous and critical raw materials, the green and sustainable fabrication routes, manufacturing analysis, and end of life issues. What can we do with these materials after their life has been somehow expired? Here are some of the applications we can use these multifunctional materials for in our proposals: sensing, detection and actuations, smart wearables, implants, health applications, smart and zero energy buildings, materials that work or behave well under very harsh conditions, materials that are very energy efficient for separation of different liquid and gas and different process optimization, and also smart materials for packaging, functional textiles or stretchable materials. This was a new incorporation last year, materials addressing environmental challenges, and this is also a topic with a special interest in this year. The objective of this topic is to address the environmental challenges of today, to support the Green Deal and the Sustainable Development Goals that Jorge and Ronald also mentioned at the beginning, and basically to support the transition towards a more circular economy, addressing concepts like design, the synthesis, the production, use and recovery of advanced materials. As I'm not going to repeat because the aspects to be addressed are very similar to the previous topics, and also perhaps due to the environmental aspect of this topic, materials processing, application and recycling should have also a big weight in the proposal. This is the description with a bit more detail of the objectives and the transversal aspects that we have to take into account in order to submit a proposal to the scope. We can deal with biodegradable and bio-based materials. We can also work on materials for sensing or for removal of hazardous substances, and also materials with applications related to clean and efficient recycling. Applications or new materials that can be an added value or an added advantages at the time of easy dismantling or sorting, the clean recovery and recycling technologies, and also the use of secondary material sources to reduce the dependency on imported materials and to make the provision chains stronger. And finally, the last topic, the next generation materials for electronics. Here, a special focus should be on a specific purpose for electronics that might include informatics, biomimetic design principles, and also circularity. And as I said, the possibility to also include magnetic materials here under the umbrella of electronics. And let's go to the applications and properties. Here, proposals can deal with nanoscale materials as alternatives to silicon, two-dimensional materials, heterostructures, materials for sensor, actuators, transducers, materials for thermal management in electronics, new materials for wearable electronics, flexible electronics, implantable materials, ultra low power or high power electronics, and then we have also to take into account the manufacturing processes via high throughput techniques. like printing technologies, additive manufacturing, laser-induced processes. They can also be under the scope of this topic. And as I said at the beginning, the TRLs has been somehow a little bit modified in comparison to last years, as is always the case for ERAMAT, being a call focused on materials. The TRL coverage is quite wide. Proposals can be targeted between TRL1 and TRL6, 7, but what we have to take into account that is with a special stress this year is that if we go for, or if the target of our proposal is a relatively high TRL above 4, industrial partners should be in the consortium. And this is everything from my side. If you have further questions related to topics or applications, just please get in contact with us.
Thank you very much, Jorge and Roberto. As you can imagine, there are quite a few questions already. Maybe we can take a couple just to make sure that we cover and it's still fresh in everybody's mind. So there's one question: is there room for material testing methodologies in the call? Today there are no methodologies on testing materials in marine environment. They are locally done in various ways. And is there any CSA with focus on agendas in the call? So the second question, I'm not sure, but maybe the first part of the question you can answer.
Yes, of course. New characterization techniques are not the main scope of any of the topics, because we have to remember that topics are always focused on the development of new materials. But if for the development of new materials, new characterization techniques are needed, in that case, they perfectly fit within the topics. But we don't have to forget that the focus should be in the development of new materials. If there is a proposal only focused on new characterization techniques, they wouldn't fit in the topic description. The advanced characterization should always be linked to the development of new materials.
Okay, thank you. And there's a similar question. I think you'll give a similar answer, actually. It's about machine learning, that it's briefly mentioned in topics 1 and 2, and in the or the horizontal objectives. They cover digitalization and data management. But are machine learning focused proposals or proposals for enhancing material design through digital technologies relevant for this call?
Well, the answer is, as you said, is very similar to the previous question. The focus should be in the development of new materials, and if artificial intelligence or machine learning is a driven or enable technology to accelerate the discovery of these new materials, they of course fit within the scope. But just as a generic technology, it wouldn't fit. It has to be a driven technology to accelerate the discovery and the development of new materials with these desired properties that are mentioned within the topics.
Okay. And another one, does topic 1 include materials for photocatalysis and photoelectrocatalysis?
Yes, if there is development of new materials, these applications are covered. I think I already mentioned within the description. But if not, I mean, I didn't transfer all the text from the work program to the slides. You can go to the work program, but yes, these are applications that are covered within this topic.
Okay. And maybe a couple more questions. There's one question asking, is it better to cover 2 or 3 topics in the proposal rather than focusing on one single topic?
Well, Jorge, yes, please.
No, if I may here, I think it's a really important question to clarify that proposals can only be select one topic. So of course you might find the situation which you have a proposal that can be amenable to several topics, but you will only be able to select a single topic. You can then play with the keywords so that of course you try to broaden as much as possible the the identification of your project scope, but you will only be able to address one topic. If you are Clarity, and I've answered some of these questions in writing, about where your project fits, the co-secretariat welcomes for you to just send these questions to us by email, and we'll try to address and guide you on your specific case.
There are other more direct questions also, like, for example, in functional materials, topic 4, bio-based materials are listed. Does it mean that a material designed only from renewable resources would be considered a functional material by itself, or should it have another specific functionality?
Well, here I guess it's difficult to answer. It depends where the core of your proposal is. If the core of your proposal is the development of the material, maybe that topic should or would be the most appropriate. If the core of the material is more related to the application, maybe it fits in a more broader topic. It's difficult to see without seeing or the description of the proposal with more detail, but it depends where the core of the proposal is.
Yeah. Another question about, does the discovery of rare earth critical elements from industrial waste fit in the scope? I think once again, it's a question we need to have new materials. So,
yeah. Well, that probably we could before giving an answer, we should probably look with a bit more detail again.
Yeah. So maybe, like, if you have specific questions on a specific topic, the best thing would be to contact the call secretariat, and you would get like a more detailed answer and maybe a more thought about answer on the call. With that, I think we will go to the next side of the presentation. Maybe Cecilia, maybe you can now talk to us about the RRI section, the RRI guidelines.
Yes, I will. I hope it looks okay.
Perfect.
So, my name is Cecilia Mathisen. I'm from the Research Council of Norway and leading RRI-related activities in MRNet 3. So, we'll see how I can move. A bit annoying. I can't move my slide. Yes, I could. So, this is what my presentation will be about, how MRNet approaches responsible research and innovation, a bit on our slightly updated RRI guidelines. What is RRI and why do we need it? How it needs to be tailored in your proposal, and how it looks in relation to sustainability. The call examples you already shown today, I also show on, and a bit on web resources and how we support RRI in MRNet. So, at large, we recognize that the materials resulting from the program needs to be designed for sustainable society in the near and medium future. So the responsible research and innovation approach is a good approach to achieve it. And what we do is to highlight the need for social, environmental, political, cultural, and ethical dimensions in the processes for research. And We call it 4 dimensions that both the researchers, the funders, and the innovators and technologists should engage with to main focus on this. And that I call an RI mindset. It's about to anticipate the future unknown risks associated with science and technology, to include a broad range of stakeholders when you develop science and technologies, to create space for reflection and the underlying assumptions and values that drive your scientific research, and to be able to respond to things that happen on the way in your project. The picture is from where the baseline of our RI guidelines were created back in 2019 in Järnet called Euromed. So new in our guidelines this year is that we try to make this very short text telling what is an RI then. So it should help science and technologies to save our planet, basically. And I just need to move this one. And to really look at who might benefit and also to prepare for problems, if any, to involve people and to push researchers to reflect on goals and to be able to change plans if something come up. Focusing on sustainability and fairness and really support global goals. So basically, RI offers this framework and techniques and tools to enable this consideration of ethical, environmental, and social aspects of work. The most important thing so what should you do then when you create your project? Because it's by creating space in your project that you are able to do this kind of RI thinking. And it's very important that you integrate it into your project and involve all participants, so you all have a shared understanding of what is your approach, what is your issues, and what is important in your project. So you must start talking about it, and you also must be open to learn on the way through your project. And it's important that somebody is in charge and take the responsibility to create this space and way of working. Yeah, this is basically said already. So why is it important? It's because science is so connected into society and the environment. So it's important that we as funders and researchers and other key stakeholders really think about how science is done. But the way you implement responsible research and innovation will depend a lot on your project in many ways. One thing is the thematics. Is it more based in biology or in more based in pure physics? That then you will have different questions and issues coming up. And also the foundational exploratory research will have a different approach to RI than high TRL research. And the disruptive path-breaking research may require more substantive approach to RI than tentative incremental research. So we had to adapt really to your project. In Emeranet, we talk about responsible research and innovation and sustainability together. Sustainability is important to Emeranet. We have mentioned it already, the UN Sustainable Development Goals and the European Green Deal. So also, RI provides a framework to ask how research and innovation should be carried out in order to ensure that we achieve sustainability goals in an open and inclusive way. So RI also supports the sustainability thinking. Another thing about an RI approach is that it really can increase both the excellence and the impact and the implementation of your project. So yeah, this general request is highlighted here. Emeranet requires that all proposals explain how their project demonstrate a commitment to RI by investigating and addressing environmental, social, ethical, political, or cultural dimensions. And yeah, but you should look at the whole text because there are many things, like also in the expected impact, that is important when you shape your RI methods. This is just one example from topic 1 and how RI shines through, already mentioned. So yeah, it's really colors the RI thinking of Emeranet really colors all our calls and how the call texts are shaped. Yeah, and just to round off, I forgot to say in the beginning, but at the call page there is a YouTube video about RI and what it is, and also how evaluators can look at RI at proposals. It's by Ellen-Marie Forsberg and Robert Schmidt. So you should look at that, and maybe especially the last part to understand better how an evaluator could look at RI in a proposal, and then you will learn a lot too. Main message: responsibility is a shared thing, and it's really in many parts of Emeranet the way we build up our calls and how we ask for RI in proposals. Yeah, and this is the webpage about RI at Emeranet. And the new guidelines, they are really not that different from before. They are more clear in language. You have this short RI in a nutshell, but it's not really changed from before. Nothing new, really. And here are some links to additional web sources that can learn where you can learn more about how to take RI into your project. Yeah, and here is the YouTube video at the end that I mentioned, that it's worthwhile listening to, and maybe especially the last part. So that was it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Celia. There's a couple of questions about RI, actually. They're both the same idea. Should a work package specifically be dedicated to RI in the proposal, or is it not necessary, and should RI be more an integral part of the proposal?
No, it's up to you what you find suitable. Maybe how you think you get your message clear through most clearly. Depends a little bit of how much resources you think you need for it too. So that will depend on your project. But if it's quite a lot of activity or things that you do, maybe then it could be a work package. But if it's just smaller things, you could just spread it out. I think it's up to you what you find more feasible for your project.
Yeah. So long as it's clearly justified within the proposal, because it is part of the evaluation criteria, of course.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. I propose now that we go to the next section, because there are no further questions on RRI. So now we're going to go for the presentation of the guide for proposals and the general procedures. And first, the participating countries and eligibility. There are already a couple of questions about it. So Roland, please, if you can explain everything.
Okay. In terms of participating countries, you will notice that not everybody participates in everything. Not every country is shown on the map for every core. Not every funding organization participates in every core. We call this variable geometry. You will see countries that participate every year, whereas others don't have the resources to do this. So it's necessary to check out in detail the list of countries that participate. You see on this slide how the situation changes over time. On average, we've always around 35 or even more funding organizations participating from all sorts of countries or regions, but they are never the same. You find all the statistics and details on the course in a brochure covering 2016 to 2020 and individually on our website. In terms of the core 2025, again, all the participating countries and regions are highlighted on a map and listed on a website. And for every single participating funding organization, there's an individual page with detailed information. This year, we have 38 participating funding organizations coming from 21 EU member states. Also associated countries. In terms of associated countries, we adopt the association to Horizon Europe, which is provided on Commission websites in an updated list. To be precise, we have 6 associated countries in this core, and this includes Canada and Korea, which fully associated or have a transitional agreement for Horizon Europe. And then we have third countries that are neither member states nor associated. You have them here. Switzerland, Brazil, Taiwan, and South Africa. The matrix of countries and regions should provide you with access to detailed information. You have individual pages for every single participating funding program. This is also where you find eligible types of organizations, you find funding rates, and you find contact persons. So this should already answer some of the questions that I've seen in the chat. And when we speak about eligibility, it's necessary to differentiate between criteria that are defined at the emirate level, at the transnational level, and eligibility defined at the national and regional level. Again, referring to the details that we provide on our website, we also offer a compilation of questions and answers in our FAQs. And to be more precise, in terms of eligible consortia, we require a minimum of 3 partners from 3 countries, all of which participate in the core, which means they are listed on our website, they are listed in the guide for proposals. And these 3 countries must include 2 EU member states or associated countries, all of them participating in the core. I hope this clarifies also the questions that I've seen in the chat. So either 2 EU members or 2 associated or any combination of those plus another third country. So it could be anything from 3 EU members to 3 associated countries to 2 plus 1 or anything else. Additional countries and additional partners are allowed, in particular as self-funded partners. There's one restriction: the coordinator must request funding, so we cannot have a consortium where the coordinator comes from a country that is not participating in this core. There's no restriction in terms of how many research groups can participate in a consortium. Basically, as large as necessary. The whole thing should make sense. So you need the partners that you need to carry out the activities, and therefore you include them in the consortium. Russian institutions are not allowed. And that's about it. That's the requirement concerning the consortium. Otherwise, I've already mentioned the TRLs. We've seen that TRLs are defined for each of the topics. There could be also definition of eligible TRLs at the national or regional level. So make sure you check that the planned activities are in the range that's eligible in terms of TRLs. The project duration will be 36 months maximum. And then there's two restrictions concerning the share of resources among consortium members. We measure them in person months, so in efforts, not in costs. And we say that one single applicant cannot have more than 60% of the total project efforts measured in person months, and one country cannot have more than 70%. So in case there's more than one applicant from one country, that's the limit for those applicants. We have a mandatory proposal form. You'll find this already for download on the website. This must be used, written in English, and submitted before the deadline, obviously, which is not negotiable. We provide formatting guidelines, and the structure of these forms must not be changed. Any restructuring or change of formatting will result in a formal rejection. This is an important point. And to clarify that we are requesting a PIC, this is something that the European Commission offers on the Commission portal. If your organization doesn't already have one, you can request a temporary PIC on the Commission portal. In addition, you have the national and regional eligibility criteria listed on the websites. And just to conclude what we have already mentioned, there could be differences in types of eligible organizations. There could be SMEs allowed in one country, but not in another country, funding programs not supporting universities, etc. Pay attention to the financial status of applicants. This could also be an important criterion. Not all countries participate in all topics. Not all funding organizations support the same range of TRLs. And there could be more things to keep in mind, such as a potential number of proposals that's allowed per applicant or something like that. So please make sure you check in detail the national and regional eligibility criteria in time, not 5 minutes before submitting the proposal, because you will find that some of these eligibility criteria are also programmed into the submission platform, and you will not be able to submit the proposal unless it's eligible. Please make sure to contact your national funding organizations.
Thank you very much, Roland. And I think you clarified a lot of the questions that were already in the chat. So I propose that we go to Larissa.
Yes. Hope you can see it in presentation mode now.
It should come. Yes, perfect.
Okay. So hello everyone, my name is Larissa Chapperman. I am at the French National Research Agency, and I'm going to quickly present to you some the main aspects of the schedule and the workflow for the call 2025. So here is the main schedule of the call 2025 with important dates. So the call has been launched on 4th of March of 2025. And the deadline for the submission of pre-proposals is the 13th of May, 2025, 12 noon, not midnight, Brussels time. Then we will have the central evaluation of the pre-proposals going from June until September. And by the end of the month, we'll have, by the end of September, we will have the pre-proposal selection meeting and select all the pre-proposals invited to the full proposal submission. And we will send the feedback to the applicants as soon as we can after the selection meeting. Then you will have this time from the feedback to the deadline of the submission to elaborate your full proposal. So the deadline is November 19th, also Brussels time noon. And these deadlines, again, as Roland said, are non-negotiable, and only the projects that have been invited to stage 1 can submit a full proposal. So there is no way of submitting only a full proposal. You have to have submitted also a proposal and have been selected, invited for stage 2. Then once again, we'll have the central evaluation at transnational level of the full proposals running from November to January 2026. And by the end of January 2026, we'll have the selection meeting. And at the selection meeting, we'll have the selection of the full proposals that are recommended for funding. And we'll send, as soon as we can after the selection meeting, the feedback to applicants. So you can expect by the end of January 2026 to know if you have been recommended for funding or not. After the feedback to the applicants, then by February we expect the stage of contract negotiations for the selected proposals to run on national and regional level, and this can vary a little bit in time according to the funding agencies involved in a proposal. And we expect the funded projects to start between February and May 2026, again, depending on the architecture of the project and the funding organizations involved. Which means that by May 2029, we expect all of the funded projects of Call 2025 to have ended, since the maximum duration of the projects is 36 months. And the deadline for the final reporting will be July 2029. So this will be the entire life cycle of the projects in Call 2025. Going into a bit more detail of the workflow. Here is a timeline highlighting whether the processes involve the central MRNet consortium or if there are also implications at the national and regional level. So as you can see, we have the proposal selection and deadline being both at the MRNet and national and regional side, which means that for some funding organizations, we also there might also be necessary to provide additional documents or additional submissions. So you have to check with your national or regional funding organization if there are additional procedures to submit the proposal before, of course, the deadline. And the funding commitments and final funding decisions are taken by the national and regional funding organizations. The main highlights here and the things you're probably the most interested in. So the highlights in the workflow are the changes that you can or cannot make from pre to full proposal stage. And the central evaluation procedures and criteria. And so I'm going to go into a bit more detail into that. So for the changes from pre to full proposal, the first and foremost thing is that the project objectives as stated in the pre-proposal cannot be changed from stage 1 to stage 2. The proposal has to remain the same, and we need to identify the objectives in order to appoint the evaluators and to ensure a good evaluation of the full and pre-proposal. So no changes in the stated objectives regarding the pre and full proposal. Changes in the consortium composition should be avoided. So these modifications of the consortium are restricted to partners from the countries that are already part all the pre-proposal consortiums. So there you might need to have some changes in the composition of the proposals, but this should be avoided. And in case this needs to be done, you cannot add new countries. This is not allowed at all. And the eligibility checks of the new partners also have to be done by the respective funding agencies before the full proposal submission, and everything has to be done in advance. So these changes should be avoided because depending on how big they are, they can also significantly change the scope of the proposal. In general, any significant changes from pre to full proposals should be avoided, and in any case, if these changes are necessary and you cannot avoid them, they have to be coordinated by the consortium leader, and the consortium leader is in charge of making sure that all involved partners and funding organizations agree with them, and meaning that any major changes of the project's content, duration, cost, funding, or consortium composition have to be communicated and approved by all the involved funding agencies at least 2 weeks before the full proposal deadline. So you need to have the approval of the involved funding organizations for the major changes in the proposal between the two stages. And again, the consortium leader is responsible for coordinating this procedure at once with the partners and with the funding organizations and with the call secretariat. And of course, you're going to find more detailed information on that on the Guide for Proposers in page 14. The second main highlight would be the central evaluation. So as you know, since 2023, we have centralized transnational evaluation carried out in both stages for Emeranet. So both pre and full proposals are evaluated centrally. And before the evaluation, the national and regional funding organizations will carry out the eligibility checks, which means that only eligible proposals will be sent to central evaluation. So if a proposal is deemed ineligible, it will not be evaluated. So the central evaluation, as usual, is implemented according to the Commission rules for the Aeronautical Fund, including the appropriate evaluation criteria. It is organized online by the call secretariat on an appropriate and exclusive evaluation tool. And each proposal is evaluated remotely by 3 independent international evaluators, and one of them will be appointed as the rapporteur by the call secretariat and will compile the peer review report, which will be the document you will have access. So this peer review report will consider the opinions of all the independent evaluators, and all of them will agree on the content of this report. So there will be discussions, remote discussions, and all of them will come to an agreement on specific proposals to a final verdict. The evaluators are appointed to the proposals based on the keywords that you're going to choose on the submission platform, and there is a document for that with tutorials and all the information necessary, and also on the proposal's public abstract. So please make sure that the keywords that you choose and that the abstract that you write are relevant and they really reflect the main advances of your projects and the main characteristics of your projects, so as to ensure that we can appoint the best suited evaluators for your proposal. And in the end, the evaluation results, which are the peer review report elaborated by the rapporteur based on the opinion of all the evaluators, excluding the scoring, they will be sent to the applicants and to the respective funding organizations via feedback emails. So you are going to receive the report, the same report that the agencies have, excluding the score, as a feedback to understand the final decision of funding or not funding a given proposal. And since we are talking about the evaluation criteria, I'm going to go through the criteria for both stages. So you're going to see that the evaluation criteria are not the same for pre and full proposals, because we don't expect exactly the same thing for the two stages. So for the threshold, all the scoring threshold are based on the Horizon 2020 system. And the maximum score of each main criterion is 5. And they are divided with in sub-criteria. And the maximum total score is 15. There is an overall threshold, just with the simple sum of the main scores, the scores of each criterion, and this threshold is 10. And the threshold for each main criterion is 3. So each criterion has a maximum of 5. You cannot have a score below 3 for one specific criteria. And the sum of all the 3 scores for excellence, impact, and implementation must be at least 10. And this is all, again, very detailed and explicit in the Guide for Proposers here on page 24. So you're going to see that for the pre-proposals, the excellence is subdivided in 3 sub-criteria. So first, you'll have clarity and pertinence of the research objective and hypothesis with a maximum of 1.5, the novelty, originality, position of the concepts and approaches regarding to the state of the art, which means the ambition, innovation, potential groundbreaking objectives with a maximum score of 2. And the appropriateness is with the methodology, credibility of the approach, and soundness of the concept, including the TRL and the approach to RI. So for all your questions regarding the appropriateness of the TRL and approach to RI, this is mostly where they're going to be evaluated for the proposal. Impact, similarly, is also divided into 3 sub-criteria. So the first one is the relevance to the specific whole topic. And then again, this links to the other question that you have asked about addressing multiple topics. Of course, multidisciplinary or interdisciplinary projects will not be penalized, but you must choose a specific call topic, and the project will be evaluated according to the specific issues covered by this theme. So you're going to see in the call document, each topic has the expected impact and outcomes, and your proposal should address those. Even if it is interdisciplinary, you have to aim one of the topics, and this is what's going to guide the evaluation. So the relevance to the call topic has a maximum of 2. We have also the contribution at European and international level, and the expected impacts listed again on the Guide for Proposals for this one specific topic that was chosen for the proposal, and also the engagement of the proposed research with circularity, environmental and ethical, political, social, and/or cultural dimensions, which is worth 1 point. These 3 sub-criteria make up the main criterion of the impact. And then you're going to see that the implementation is subdivided into 5 sub-criteria. No, 3 that are then subdivided into minor points. And you have mostly the practical aspects of the proposal. So you have competence and experience of each consortium member and the consortium as a whole, including complementarity, balance, and interdisciplinarity. You have the quality of the cooperation and including the added value of the cooperation. The quality and effectiveness of the work plan, including work packages and tasks distribution. This links again to the question related to work package for RI on whether there is necessarily a work package attached to a specific task, and this all needs to be addressed according to your specific proposal and the needs for your research. You have the organization and management of the project, including risk management, and the appropriateness of the budget and other resources to be committed by individual partners, which is also a relevant aspect in the evaluation. You're going to see that the criteria are different for the full proposal. We still remain with the same scoring threshold in general, so 15 points in total. Threshold, general threshold 10, and a threshold for main criteria at 3. but you're going to see that we have more subdivisions, and of course you can read all the detail, but mostly the main difference is that for the full proposal we expect more details and more practicalities. So you're going to see that since clarity and pertinence of research objectives have already been positively evaluated for your project since you passed to stage 2, now we are going to focus on, for instance, more on the extent of the innovation potential beyond the state of the art, or on the soundness of the methodology, for instance. And of course, this is a lot of information. So the main point here is that the project is going to be structured differently between pre and full proposals according to the expectations for both stages. And you're going to note that the structure of the mandatory templates reflects the structure of the evaluation criteria. And again, as Roland said previously, and as Scholing is going to say in her presentation on the call documents, the structure of the templates must not be altered because it is important also for the evaluation. So each aspect needs to be properly addressed. And with that, I am going to thank you for your attention, and then see if we have questions.
Thank you very much, Larissa. I don't think there are any specific questions that you haven't answered in your presentation. So I propose we move on to Scholing.
Thank you.
You can go ahead, Scholing, but you're muted, I think.
But now you can hear me. Hello, my name is Scholing Müller, PTJ from Germany. In the previous presentation, you have learned a lot about the mERAnet Call 2025. The good news is that most of the informations are condensed in the call documents, or to be more precise, most of them are condensed in the guide for proposals. The guide for proposals is available on the mERAnet Joint Call 2025 website. So here you can also find the other call documents for the pre-proposal stage, the compilation of the frequently asked questions, and very important, the mandatory pre-proposal form. I want to draw your attention also to the Annex A to the guide of proposals. So you can also get the content of the Annex A also by going to the subpage list of the participating countries. So as you can see here, then you can, the subpage list of the participating countries, it shows an overview with the matrix table of all participating funders, with the and most funders, they have no thematic restrictions of the core topics. You can see everywhere the crosses, but be aware of the exceptions, like for the Austrian FFG. On the right-hand side here on the webpage, you will find more information about the national and regional programs. So that means the content of the Annex A is displayed here. Why is Annex A so important? So the Annex A is a compilation of all national and regional regulations of the participating funding organizations. Each project partners requesting funding must apply individually for regional or national funding, and is therefore subjected to the rules of the respective funding programs. So as Roland has outlined, there are also national or regional eligibility criteria which should be fulfilled. So for example, here you can see the table of the Austrian funding agency FFG. Here you will find the information about the program's names and website, the contact persons, the eligibility TRL range and funding rates, the major national and regional eligibility criteria, like the participation of industrial partners, or the thematic restrictions of topics. So be really aware of these informations. Depending on the national and regional regulations, sometimes also additional funding applications or informations are required to be submitted to a specific deadline. Therefore, as the previous speakers have said, therefore we strongly recommend to contact your respective national or regional funding organizations before the pre-proposal submission, and really in a good time. The guide for proposers, this is the main document, contain all relevant information for proposal writing and beyond. The main and horizontal objectives of the call, the timeline, the call topic descriptions in the Annex in the Annex 1, the evaluation criteria in Annex 4, just to mention some of the highlights. Please read it carefully. It is important to gain knowledge about the application and the evaluation procedure in advance. Especially be aware of the eligibility criteria at MRNet level and at the national regional level outlined in the chapter evaluation. I want now go really quickly through the pre-proposal form, which is mandatory, and to provide some tips in the proposal writing. So the first page of the pre-proposal is the title page. Please note the use of the pre-proposal form is really mandatory. It contains 7 chapters, as you can see here in the content table. Do not change the structure, the order, and the number of the chapters, as well as the formatting conditions. And you can see also what are the formatting conditions are. So 11 point size for the main text body. And the minimum margins are 15 millimeters. Do not narrow them. The pre-proposal form has a page limit of 22 pages. And here we use a kind of color code. In the template, instructions and information for the proposals are printed in blue. These paragraphs, they can be deleted. So this is page 3. So here, please enter the requested information of the proposed projects in the summary table. Note that the project duration is limited to 36 months. Please select only one core topic, as we have said, and check if the chosen topic is supported by all respective funding organizations of your consortium. So here it is the project summary. So please write a concise and inspiring project summary, which shows how your projects address the objectives and the requirements of the core topics. And in the section relevance for funding programs, it will be considered in the eligibility check of the respective funding organizations. So this is really a quite important part for the national or regional eligibility check. So therefore, be aware of the your national and regional funding program. So here in the table, the PIC number, as also said by the previous speaker, must be included for each partner. If there are more partners than 5, so please add new columns. The last 2 rows should remember you to have knowledge about the respective national and regional funding programs. Please contact the responsible program officer in order to check if the national and regional funding conditions are fulfilled. In the excellence section, for all sections of the proposals, we have corresponding evaluation criteria as Larissa has outlined. So during the proposal writing, we advise you to check constantly if your proposal are meeting the evaluation criteria. So concerning the excellence, please describe the specific objectives and the anticipated outcomes. Be aware of the horizontal objectives of the call, and we advise you to use images and diagrams to visualize the written content. So concerning the impact part, please read the call topics description. There you can find them in Annex 1 carefully and address the expected impact. For each topic, there are specified ROE requirements which should be regarded. So when setting up the cost calculations in the implementation section, please remember these both eligibility criteria, which Roland has shown. So concerning the total effort of one single applicants, the maximum is 60%, and of applicants from one country, which is the maximum of 70%. So in the last two chapters of the pre-proposal form, the ethical issues table and the checklist must remain in the proposal. Do not delete them. Remember the page limitation of 22 pages. If the proposal exceeds the page limitation, it will be rejected by the submission tool during uploading. The system will display an error warning. So proposals, they must be submitted by the project office coordinator through the mERRorNet submission tool before the deadline. Submit the proposal in good time. So proposals can be saved as drafts, revised, and resubmitted again before the deadline. So do not do this 5 minutes before deadline. And don't forget that it might be necessary to submit additional information to the respective national and regional funding organizations. So here you find also some useful links on this final slide. And so then I finished my presentations. Are there any questions?
Thank you very much, Scholing. So there are a couple of questions that have popped up. First of all, who will take care of the harmonization of all these national requirements so the overall consortium will be eligible? If I may answer here, I think each partner individually should check with their national funding agency their condition for eligibility, their condition for budget requirement, and everything. The coordinator is in charge of submitting the project, and so each partner has their own responsibility in checking that they're eligible, and then the coordinator submits the project. Unless somebody wants to comment further on this, then but I think it was clear. So it's your responsibility. Everybody checks that they're okay, and then the coordinator can submit. There's also a question more on, I think, on wording. What does it mean, anticipated number of fundable research partner? So this is, it means that for example, for the Czech Republic, they have secured budget to fund up to 5 to 8 projects, basically. So it's just so that you know if an agency only has secured for one project and there are 14 applicants, then you know that it will be a hard competition in terms of budget restrictions. But here, that's all it means. I hope it was clear enough. There's a couple of questions on TRL. I don't know if Roland, you want to take it over? How do you determine a TRL? What is TRL? But there are some clear guidelines also by the Commission on what TRLs are. So we advise that you go look for them online as well.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't add anything on TRLs related to eligibility. I think it's important to check what the eligible TRL range is for each topic. There could be discussions on what that means for this particular topic, and when it comes to definitions, yeah, there's material available.
Yeah. And I see that there are not a lot of questions that we have not answered, at least online, orally. Let me see if there are some other questions. How detailed must the WP be described in the pre-proposal? Maybe that's a question that we can answer. But I think the answer is as detailed as needs be to be evaluated properly. Unfortunately, we don't have like we understand that it's a pre-proposal, so you don't have to have like the full length of the description. However, yeah, we need to understand where you're going with that work and how you're going to structure your project. And what will the page limit be on the final proposal? Maybe Xiaoling, this you can answer.
In the full proposal in general, the page limit is about 55 pages.
Okay, and does that include references?
Yes, the references should be included within within the proposal. Do not put it in a outside with a link, external link, because only those information which are included within the pre-proposal or within the proposal form will be evaluated. Of course, links to some external papers and so on, just for as references can be included, but not the total reference or literature link, which would be outsources.
Okay, there's a more strategic question. If there's a project with good score, but national funding of a specific country has already been given, does the project get non-funded or just partially funded? Here, it's a very complicated answer to give. It will be part of a negotiation between the funding agencies, what can happen. We cannot give a straight answer to this. Of course, the point for Emeranet is and has always been to fund as many projects as possible. So we will put a maximum emphasis on funding agencies to be able to fund as many projects as they can. The question on can any partner be the coordinator? Yeah, that is up to you. You're free to choose who can coordinate depending on their work load and everything. And then there are questions on specific topics. As we mentioned, I think it's better to ask them directly to the call secretariat, and they can answer more specifically. There's a question on dual use technologies that are not mentioned under the ethical issues table. Does that mean that dual use is not considered as an ethical issue? Maybe that's a question for Cecilia. Or anybody else. Okay, never mind.
I was muted, sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
I was, yeah. Could you repeat the question? Sorry.
There's a question of dual use. It's not included in the ethical table. Is it not an ethical issue?
Yeah, we decided to not raise that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in today's situation, I guess that dual use could be defended more than before, maybe. I don't know. But up to you to discuss it, I would say, in your proposal. And yeah, you could raise that issue if you want to. It's not like you're not allowed to have dual use or so in your proposal.
Okay, but if I remember correctly, also we decided to not specifically talk about dual use, but to leave it to each individual
Yeah.
researcher to
Yeah,
decide.
so that's what I
Exactly.
tried to say.
Yes.
So yeah, you could discuss it or not discuss it, and as you like, and leave it up to your project.
Okay. And a question, is the UK considered an EU member? No, that's
No.
maybe for Roland.
No, that's not. They are associated, as far as I know now,
Yeah,
on the same line as Norway.
The question is nice, but the more important question is the UK participating in the core?
Yeah.
And in that case, the answer is no, which means anybody from the UK, irrespective of association or anything, needs to be included as an additional partner in addition to the 3 partners from 3 eligible countries.
Okay. And there are questions on German institutions outside of Saxony, of course. Same thing. Just check the national requirements. If your institution is not in the national requirements of the agency to which you want to ask funding for, then that means you're not eligible for this funding agency, and so you should apply as an extra partner. And Xiaoling wants to comment as well.
Yes, I just want to recall the page limitation of the full proposal. So in general, it is 40 pages.
40 pages. Okay, including the references. Okay. I think we have answered all the questions. So anyways, we took a good note of all the questions that were asked during the webinar. Xiaoling, I think you mentioned also that we also have an FAQ document that is available and which we will try to complement with these extra questions. So, and if you have any additional questions, all the funding agency representatives are there to help you as well. And you also have the call secretariat as a resource to ask your questions. So with this, I think we can conclude this year's webinar. So thank you all for participating in this edition of the webinar. We hope that this was useful to you. As mentioned, the slides and the recording of this session will be published on the Call 2025 website. So you will have all this information, maybe not this week, but maybe early next week if it's not there then. Good luck for your proposals. And have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.